is show you the designs we have for both the manager and admin views and get your feedback. So what I'll do is I'll just basically bring those designs up and I'll let you just soak them in, and then you can give me your feedback, tell me your thoughts, and we can talk about them. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. And here's Mr. Michael Wu.
Hey there, guys.
All right.
Hello.
Let me share my screen. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so I'm just going to let you soak it in for a minute. This would be the manager's view. And Paul, you've seen a similar design before. Everything below the fold is largely the same. It's just the dashboard header that's really changed in this version.
So this is pulling from a variety of different places, right?
Yeah. This will be pulling from, ideally post MVP. It'll be pulling from Workday. It'll be pulling from Exonify. It'll be pulling from Pluralsight, and it'll be pulling from Toolbox, depending on your role and your title.
We're not considering AP for me or front end for me, Paul?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
They're on the chopping block, so they've been out of scope from what I've understood.
Okay.
Yeah, I have never even heard of those two. I've suddenly heard that there's a lot more than I ever knew about.
Yeah, there are still some others beyond the four you just mentioned. Those are probably what we would consider the primary applications, though. And to Silva's point, AP and FE are some custom built web apps that are used for specific departments within the store, but they overlap with some of the functionality we have. So we would like to bring them into our, Exonify or Workday platforms, because the business has been trying to clamp down on the number of unique different apps parts of the business go and get built.
Yes.
So while I can say they've been out of scope, that could change. I have no real sway on that decision beyond, just saying, hey, these are out here, and if people are being expected to use them, they need to be accessible.
Yeah.
Right.
I think there's been a lot of that on this project so far. Back and forth between what's going forward, what's not, when it's happening, when it's not. Something's getting cut. Is it not? Like I heard Toolbox was going to go away as well, but now there's no dates on that or anything like that. So I've been told to keep that in for now.
Yeah. So the reason I asked, was I didn't know, did we need to give visibility into where the overdue aspects are? Like, is that what, when you look under overdue, it says Lowe's Learning? Would it say would it say Workday Learning? Would it say Lowe's U? That kind of thing?
Yeah. If there was something granularly assigned to you from one of those specific platforms, then that would appear there. Yes. It's my understanding that some of those platforms, say Pluralsight, or I'm not sure about Exonify, that those don't always have the ability to be granularly assigned, like specifically Pluralsight and Toolbox.
Yeah, Toolbox definitely doesn't have what you would consider a learning plan or a manager managed, learning plans. Pluralsight, they're actually building out some of that capability. So you'll see in the, relatively soon, there's going to be more functionality around, as a leader, when you log into Pluralsight, you will see a dashboard of we're building an integration with Workday to send that team structure to Pluralsight. So they'll have a little bit more capability to manage and push and pull training from their direct reports as they deem fit. So there will be a little bit more of that functionality available as part of our Workday Go Live, actually.
Okay, so then we could pull that into here as well then.
Yeah, and it depends what Pluralsight expose. Like, What we've
What they
not
expose in
pulled
their
out of Pluralsight is what's assigned to you. And I think that might have been what you're getting at, Soka, is like really
Yeah.
the only thing we track from Pluralsight is what you take. So
Right.
as of now, there's nothing exposed by Pluralsight as far as like, this is what's on Paul's learning plan.
Right.
Gotcha.
So if the idea would be that Pluralsight sends that information, that is not currently, while they have pretty robust APIs, that's not currently something we're doing.
Yeah.
And that, to add on to that, when you see my direct reports learning and you have overdue and due soon, are you taking that overdue and due soon status from those source systems, or is that the thought behind that being some sort of in-between calculation?
That's purely a tech question. This was more of a design, in talking to current users of the system, when they have to go see who's got something overdue, they do a lot of chasing and a lot of digging and a lot of depth there,
Right.
specifically if they're store managers. I talked to one, Aaron Lixel, where he was saying, I have 5 direct reports as a store manager, and I can look and see if they have anything that's overdue, but to see if any of their direct reports have anything due, I have to go down another level. And he's like, so I'm going down a rabbit hole 5 times, because I can't just cross over to the same level of person under a different leader. I have to back my way out to myself and then go down another direct reports rabbit hole, so to speak.
Yeah, that'll be a tricky one. That's a tricky nut to crack there.
Yeah.
Is the view all next to my direct reports learning like an expansion of the reports to hierarchy to say bring in, would that view all button there expand to show me everyone who ultimately reports to me in one view, or what was
that was the idea behind that, just if there were more than, and hearing, that some store managers have upwards of 200 and something, direct or direct, I wouldn't say they're all direct reports, but under his umbrella, they would want to be able to see that, to see, who's in or out of compliance with training. So that was the idea, to have a view all if it was over a specific number. This would be a carousel, so you could swipe it and see, more people, that are due soon or have overdue if you swipe it or click it. But usually there's after 2 or 3 clicks, there's some issues on recall and things like that. Miller's rule 7 ± 2. So just keeping that in mind is like, okay, well, who was that person? Where was he? The view all enables you to just go see that bigger view faster if it's needed. So hopefully there's never that many people with overdue training at once.
Yeah, I mean, well, it can get, when you go further up the ladder from a store manager, it could get problematic potentially, because a regional vice president could ultimately have 10,000 direct and indirect reports because all the store managers and all those stores roll up to them.
Yeah.
So you would want, and we try to prevent people at that level from being easily able to go pick a single individual out that's all the way at the bottom of the chain, right?
Yeah.
So you probably wouldn't be, there wouldn't be much pushback on our part if there was, like, I think you were saying, sort of a cutoff of like, we'll show you maybe a layer or 2 below, but we're not necessarily trying to give you a way to try to load a screen of potentially everybody below you. If you're far enough up the chain, that can become a lot of information.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that's a likely thing. I mean, generally it's you poke the people below you. If they have, overdue training, they would theoretically poke the ones underneath them, and so on and so on. I think the case that Aaron had brought up was that, what if one of my direct reports is out on vacation and I need to see if any of their direct reports have anything that's overdue. Can I do that? And I'm like, yeah, you'd be able to do that. And he's like, well, would I be able to, go in and poke somebody and tell them to complete their training? And I said, yeah, that would be, you would see the view that they see, but you're just once removed from it. And he's like, okay, that sounds good. So, and it didn't go any deeper than that, really, though.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's usually about the layer that we want people to be responsible for. If the capability exists, you'll get someone at the RVP or district manager trying to drill in and email specific people, but we do try to discourage that, like you said, to try to have at least a bit of a chain of command thing where if you're at the district or regional level, you get a summary view. So you could maybe say, hey, there's a store that has a lot of overdue training, but we're not going to let you drill down to the specific people. So you can just, as a district manager, nudge the store manager to say, hey, your store is showing a decent bit of red. Go figure out what the problem is versus I'm going to compile a list of specific people you need to go talk to.
Cool.
I mean, from a layout perspective, I think this is clean. I like the idea, the overdue, due soon, in progress. Your daily training, I'm assuming, is just a 1 that becomes a 0 and becomes a 1 again tomorrow.
It would just, I mean, if you were to go click on, that would end up being the Lowe's U. We talked, I think it was you that suggested to have the daily Lowe's U questions and paired it in with this tier. So if you were to click that, it would just anchor you here. If you were to click off and go do your daily training on that, then that would 0 out and just come back as a 1 the next morning.
So is the idea that, and I guess this may be getting in the tech weeds, but that the Lowe's U platform is stating that you're done with your daily activity, not you just clicked on that button to go to Lowe's U?
Yeah, there would be some sort of reporting. I mean, I'm not the tech person, and I don't hook up all the background cables and pipes and things like that. But ideally, yes, there would be some intelligence in here. It wouldn't just be based on the click, here like ad tracking or something. You click on this and it goes there and this zeroes out. It would be like, yes, you completed that. And now we're messaging back to you here that you completed it. Just like here, we know that it's overdue, that you're missing these 3 specific items.
Cool. Yeah, because I know that is part of their API, so they'd be able to just send your daily training is done. It's a toggle, basically.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm getting in the weeds, maybe it's instead of a number, it's just more of a yes, no, because it's not. You may get in there and have, it's a single activity if you're doing your daily. There's another component within the Lowe's U called core, which is a bit more of a formal learning path that is distinct from your day. You only end up in daily training once you're done with core, right? So as you're new to either the company or your role, there is going to be an element within Lowe's U that is more than just that brief once a day. You're basically going to take the majority of your training inside of there. And those things are tracked via what Lowe's U calls milestones. And those are how you get the values like due soon, overdue, and complete.
Okay. That's good to know.
So it's like we want everybody to kind of ultimately end up in the daily training aspect of Lowe's U, but in reality, there's always going to be people in the core component as well as they onboard to whatever their latest role is.
Okay, so does core go away once they've completed that that onboarding training?
Yeah, unless they transfer departments, they would get the next department's core path. But once you're done with core, you then are in your daily reinforcement.
Okay. All right, that makes sense then. All right. But in general, does the My Direct Reports learning module, would you find this helpful, easy to use? Any thoughts, any feedback?
Yeah, is that I could click on their individual pictures and remind just one, or is it just just one person's information from there?
Yeah, I mean, if you wanted to just blanket, remind all, you click that and, that would send everything out to those who are overdue. You could send a reminder to everybody who's got something due soon. If one person just showed up, this would, depending on what the training is and what's up and coming, you might have one outlier if everybody else has completed stuff, and you could do it, click on them and do a deep dive into their profile and see, what the course is. And, where that was deemed helpful was sometimes a course, somebody takes a course and there's problems with it where it doesn't report back or it doesn't give credit or something like that. And IT has to get involved. So you could, in that sort of case, you could say, oh, hey, Mario hasn't done his training. Why? I click through, I see, oh, it's that course that is problematic. I can go remind IT as well, so he'll hear it from me and from him. And then we're looking at doing a treatment where if this person has direct reports as well, there'll be a call out, like if their direct reports have something that's overdue. So maybe a badge on their avatar, or maybe a ring around it with a color or something to that effect. So I'm in the process of exploring that. And then you could click through to their profile, see this tier or this module on their profile, and you could click on any one of those and see, a bunch of people are having problems with that one course, or something to that effect. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think that, for the most part, they'll, outside of a few types of courses that really hang up, the person in the store may not know that a course has problems. They're more just going to say, hey, this person's overdue. I'm going to remind or nudge them to go do it. And then that person would submit a case being like, hey, my course is stuck or not functioning as expected.
Gotcha.
Or the SSA would submit a case on their behalf.
Okay. And that brings up a great question. How do they currently report something's wrong? Is there a flag or something within the course? And I'm assuming that would be part of the platform that they're on, right?
Right. So that's not, unfortunately, where we're at. So we have ServiceNow as our MyHR ticketing system. So if someone's in one of our learning platforms, they unfortunately have to kind of fully exit it while noting the name and ID of the course that they're taking and submit a ticket through our ServiceNow platform internally called MyHR. And they can submit that, hey, this course is broken, and we'll investigate it from there, or mark them complete because we can say, hey, they've launched it and spent X amount of time in it. Or if they send us a screenshot of the completion page, that sort of deal.
Okay. All right.
It's not ingrained, it'd be wonderful to have a little help button that lets you click it and it would capture right from the course call, because the course knows your sales ID and what browser you're using and what page you're on. So, there's a holy grail out there of I could click a flashing help icon and it would pre-fill most of a ticket for me and I could submit send, but we just don't have that level of sophistication.
Yeah. I mean, that's platform dependent. I mean, I did things like that. eBay, if you saw a listing that was, fraudulent or whatever, or stolen from, cloned from somebody else's listing, whatever, the exact same pictures, you could report it. And, by clicking on that flag, it would pull the ID and all that sort of stuff. And then you could fill out a form from a couple drop downs and then push it through and get a response back via email. Okay.
So this is Silka. I was just thinking like that remind all again. Like I use that LTC nudge thing, and it's for each individual, right? So I think what Paul was asking before, if I click remind all, is it just a generic kind of pop-up that's just said, hey, just go check your learning, or is it specific to what they're doing, or it'll actually bring a remind all like pop-up that says, and then you can customize it?
the idea would be that, depending on what each person had due, I mean, it would capture who's in here. So sort of like, say, an email in that sense, like a bunch of people on a BCC. It would send them a message saying, hey, you have overdue training, please go do it now. They would go.
So the manager would not really customize it. It's just like a
Um,
remind all kind of thing, and it just goes shoot out.
Yeah. I mean, the idea was to take some of the work off the manager's shoulders.
Okay.
And enable them to engage faster. And, so if they wanted to customize things, I suppose that could be an option. But,
no, I just was curious of what the approach was. So
yeah, from this view, the first three people that have overdue training that are in your group, they might have three totally different courses that are overdue. So that's why I was thinking it should be a general nudge. And then I also we were going to have a nudge, so if you did a deep dive from here onto this guy, we'll call him Charles, so you click on Charles, you would land on Charles's profile, his picture would be here. These would be his courses. And there could be a nudge button underneath here for him, for you. Oh, he hasn't done his policies for everyone. What's he doing? Okay, I'm going to send him a nudge for this specific course.
Okay.
But, when somebody like, a store manager has a larger number of direct reports, they wanted to be able to nudge people quicker than all the handheld stuff. So that was the thinking behind it.
So I have two other things that have popped in my brain. So that daily, not everybody kind of uses Exonify, so I don't know if that would be kind of customized to the role.
The whole thing is designed to be granular per role. So, somebody like Jessica Russell's team looks at a career title at Lowe's. This person's an HTML developer, or front-end engineer, whatever you want to call them. Then, they would have courses up here that would be coming in from Workday. That would be, how not to sexually harass your,
right,
your coworkers, and how not to do insider trading, and secure your devices, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if they get anything from Exonify currently or not. I've heard varying things back and forth, but if they did, it would be here. Or no, sorry, this would be due soon. If they, and I'm showing you. Because
Exonify is the only thing that has like the concept of daily. So that's
yeah. And I'm showing you the pre MVP version. So once you get past, like most popular suggested for you by your role, there would also be two other tiers. So there would be, if you're a front end developer, you would get the Lowe's U Tech Institute, and you could also have Toolbox. And these would be broken out similar to this, so you'd have the granular courses. They would be in their own tier. And the tiers would show up based on your role. So if you weren't a developer or weren't doing anything with tech at Lowe's, then you wouldn't get Pluralsight,
Right.
And, depending on, I've heard varying things about Toolbox, that some people assign these things depending on, behaviors or whatever. You may or may not see this. So it would be served to you based on your role specifically. So you would not be getting courses that were not relevant to your job at Lowe's.
Okay. Then the only other thing was the completed number. That I don't know if would that go up and down, Paul? Because like if things like come off and on and like all of that stuff, like
you never lose completions.
Okay.
But I almost wonder if you need that at all, because like today, I literally pulled a transcript this morning for legal. The person had 723 items in their completed history in their full transcript because they've been here since 2003. So it can just, the amount of stuff you've completed isn't really, as weird as it sounds, that important. It's mostly just, are you caught up with what you have? And the total amount of what you've completed, I think what you're getting at, Soka, is like, to get that true number, it depends on where you look. Because even what we're doing now to migrate to Workday, we're bringing 20 million records over from SuccessFactors. That's only about a third of everybody's total history. So that count can be a little bit misleading in a lot of ways, and not necessarily like what people are, depending on where it's pulling from, and the fact that Lowe's U doesn't even really have courses in the traditional sense, counting what you've completed is a little bit tricky.
Yeah, I can see that. I was looking at it from, Dave Sansevera had this vision of, growing education at Lowe's, right? And then part of that, if you look at the Pluralsight platform and you look at the Exonify platform, there's some gamification there. So, some of the idea around completed is kind of ties into the gamification a bit. It could be tied to leaderboards. It could be, you want to go back and revisit a course. I did something on, I was talking to one developer and he said, I use the Pluralsight stuff for, basically like a reference dictionary for JavaScript. So he'll go and hit various courses and, cut and paste things, or, take screenshots and then, copy the code out of it, to, increase his skills in JavaScript. So he was talking about, having something like that where he could go back and revisit classes he's taken, as a refresher, I guess, technically. But he said that he actually bookmarks courses within Pluralsight currently to get that same effect.
Yeah, because that's another piece of it, right? Like, depending on the settings of the course and the system you're in, there can be a distinction between a review of a course and a retake. And then some content is actually due annually, biannually, so you'll continue to grow. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. It can be there. I just think that there could be scenarios where people look at that number and then they're trying to figure out where that number even comes from.
Right.
Because it's not going to be obvious necessarily if I look in Lowe's U or Workday how much I've completed.
Right, because not everything from Lowe's U is carried over to Workday, so it could get might get a little wonky.
Okay, that's great feedback. Like I said, I think it was in one of the original design specifications that it should be there, but it's not like as important. It would actually go off to a separate page and just be a list of basically the courses you've completed to date. And then, like I said, if we could tie in some of the gamification, the badges and things like that are currently in Exonify and Pluralsight, and pull those over into that completed page to make people more excited about what they've achieved. That was the thinking, really.
Yeah, and I think that between, if that screen could almost be in the future, if we're talking about sort of a central place on the back end, even for some of this learning data, you'd be able to better aggregate that information. It's just a basic count, I'm just throwing it out there, not necessarily a problem. It just could be confusing to people because I could go to something and see, they could request an official transcript from us, like that person this morning, and it would have 700 things. But then when they look in here, it might only show like 60 because that's just what they've taken in the last 4 years since they were recently, rehired in 2016 or something like that. Yeah. So one of those things where that number can mean different things to different people.
Yeah, and we could call that out on the page, as well. This may not cover everything you've ever taken at Lowe's. We could put a caveat in there or a disclaimer or whatever you want to call it. But that's great feedback because, once again, we're several months into this project and I keep learning something new every day.
Yeah,
Like,
no doubt.
somebody was saying, oh, do we really need an admin view? And somebody else said, no, I don't think so. And then I talked to, Jessica, and she's like, there's 100 different types of admins. Of course you need it.
Well, yeah,
And
because that was part of my question here in our stores. We have a scheduling staffing administrator role. They have no direct reports. However, in practical reality, they oversee a lot of training. So my direct reports learning widget would be empty, but they get constantly asked to look at the stores. So if there's people that they would, if they would have the ability to view at least just they would really only need their location. Just people who are not managers or not people leaders have access to that view of my store.
okay, so like convert my direct reports learning to my stores learning,
Yeah.
thing like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great feedback. And then I have a question for you. So thinking about adding an admin quick links here, so enabling them to access the admin center, admin favorites, learning administration, and then presentations. And when I asked Jessica, which ones of these she uses, she was like, oh, I definitely use admin center and the learning administration. Um, she's like, I don't really use admin favorites. She's like, that's, customized bookmarks. And I said, well, what about presentations? And she goes, I've never clicked on that ever. So I would ask you if you've ever used the presentations. And
I'm not even sure where you're
I
referring
don't
to the
know.
presentations link.
oh, really? Hold on. Let me find. All right, let's see. This is Jessica. So admin functions, admin
On
favorite
the home.
presentations, and learning administration.
I have no
I
idea.
think you have this. I think this one's yours. Yeah, Paul Turner. So you have it too.
Yeah, I mean, I have it, but that's some success factors feature that we have never leveraged.
Okay.
Yep, it's completely empty. I'm looking at mine now, and yeah, it's just a BizX talent side that's always been empty for us.
Okay, cool. So I can pop that.
I look right past it. Yeah.
Do you use admin favorites?
I use a couple of admin favorites. Yeah, I just
Okay.
manage just a couple of the ones that I would regularly go to rather than having to go find them in the big old list of options you have.
So would this suffice for your needs, having a quick links up
Yeah,
here?
it's just not going to work that way in Workday. Like that's success factors, and we're in the process of sunsetting success factors.
Yeah. Okay. So
those terms they have a similar thing in Workday where you can pin certain tasks and reports into a favorites list, but I don't remember what they call it. It's not really an administrator thing. It's just my shortcuts that everyone has, and you can shortcut to whatever access you have in learning. You can, or in Workday, excuse me, whatever tasks or reports that I think you can have up to 10, but it's not unique to learning or system administration. It's just a shortcut menu that everybody can use.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this page will be built in Workday or if it's going to be built on something else and then point or pull, things in or out. I think that's still up in the air, to be honest.
Okay.
So, my understanding is that this has the ability to be very customized based on what's been discussed, and then there's various flavors of MVP that will roll out over the next 6 to 10 months.
Yeah, I think you could get away with just something that's like learning admin, because for the vast majority of people, learning admin is going to just apply to Workday.
Okay.
We don't even, an administrator is a very different thing in the LoweSU Exonify world than it is in Workday.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's what Jessica was saying. She was saying something to the effect that there's currently 100 different types of admins. That's going to get cut down to 10 in Workday, I think she said. And then she said, you know, there's SSAs and HR. I'm going to draw a blank on what the other title was.
HR business partner, yeah.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Area HR, district managers.
Yeah, but they were like in the DCs.
Okay, HR coaches.
Yeah, HR coaches or HR coordinators or something.
Mm-hmm.
But she was saying that those people didn't have the access, the admin access that you or she have. They would need
Right.
it from their profile.
Yeah, and this would be something where you could probably just link to Workday, and there is going to be an application called Learning Administrator when they land there. You
Okay.
know, or we could maybe even link them directly to the Learning Administrator dashboard.
Okay.
But that's really going to be the only place that people outside of our core L&D and HR systems teams even consider themselves administrating learning. Everything else has got different terminology.
Okay. Okay.
And they wouldn't, you know, the upside of the LoweU Exonify app is it doesn't require as much. It's sort of a bit more simplistic in nature. So there's not as much configuration around, you know, there's not even 10 different kinds of admins. There's literally just one. You're either a people leader or you have like full admin rights to the system. So.
Okay. That's good to know. All right, cool. Well, this has been super helpful. Gone over a little bit. I got to jump into another meeting. Really appreciate the feedback.
Sure.
Super helpful as usual. I will make a couple quick changes to these, and I think we're good.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Will. Have a good afternoon.
You too.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.